All right, it is 7:03. Welcome everyone to the Zoning, Planning and Parks Committee meeting for ANC 1A. I'm Michael Ray, the chairperson for this committee. Joining me is Stan Vauger, Leila Bonet, sorry, Jason Klock, and Kent Bass from the committee. So we're going to start this evening talking about a park space in ANC 4C that there's been a suggestion to try to make some changes to, which we'd love to hear. And then we're going to move on to 616 Quebec Place. And then the final item is just sort of a preview of some new information I received regarding Tublin Elementary and some rooftop elements that we can kind of look at and see if we have any questions about. But Mr. Dryden, I'm going to share my screen here in a second, but while I do that, why don't you go ahead and just tell us what your suggestion was and why we're here tonight.
Okay, thank you, Michael. And committee members, I'm pleased to be here tonight. My name is Steve Dryden. I am the director of the Rock Creek Songbirds Habitat Restoration Project in Rock Creek Park. And this project's been going on for 8 years. I guess the most visible thing is the trees we've been planting in cooperation with the National Park Service to help improve the habitat for birds and also to make the park more beautiful for the foreseeable future. And of course, we've been doing a lot of outreach to the community too. It's part of the project is to involve the community in all aspects, from recreating there to education to just having it as a place for relaxation. It's a very extraordinary kind of unknown piece for a lot of people, piece of land, which is right on the edge of your ANC district there. And it's also, as you know, because it's part and parcel of the neighborhood, it's been an area where there's been a lot of trouble over the years with nuisance behavior for the most part, but the kind of nuisance behavior that frankly has made it really unwelcoming to the neighborhood and to people who want to just go and enjoy the park as a park. And so, people who deal with parks and advocate for parks, can come up with all kinds of ideas to try to deal with situations like this, the trash, the drinking, the prostitution, the endless kind of behavior issues. You can speculate for a long time about different ways of doing this, and sometimes it involves the police. Of course, we don't like to do that if we can, but one thing that has been suggested by a lot of people is that if you make the park more attractive and people use it for regular stuff, then you might be able to decrease the amount of this antisocial nuisance behavior and make it a park that the community can enjoy rather than this place where a couple of individuals at any given time are monopolizing it for their various activities. So one idea that has been proposed and what I'm proposing tonight and I've been talking with neighbors about is to get the Park Service to place a picnic table on the Quincy Green, that's what I want to call it. It's that grassy space right on the alley that is very nice for dog walking, picnicking, watching birds, you name it. But honestly, because of all the trouble in the woods right adjacent there, has never been, I think, very attractive to a lot of people. And in fact, neighbors have told me, and moms in particular, have told me they don't want to take their kids back there. There's extraordinary amounts of glass and condoms and you name it everywhere. It's quite a shame. So the idea is on a trial basis to have a picnic table right there on the alley. I mean, you would have it on the other side of those boulevards, those wooden boulevards, but on the grass. So they'd be very visible. And people could come out and sit and picnic and bring out their grill, whatever they want to do. This will be on a trial basis for 6 or 12 months. And, I have discussed this in the past with the superintendent of the Park Service, Ms. Washburn, who's here tonight, plus her staff. And they're open to considering it. And I know that Julia's here tonight, and I'd be interested in hearing her comments on this. But As Leila suggested last fall, I did put together kind of a petition, not full blown, but I certainly tried to get a number of people in the neighborhood, both residents on Quincy and also some of the businesses, to sign it, saying that they were interested in having this picnic table put there on a trial basis and see how it goes. You know, it doesn't have to, I mean, if it, if it really does attract trouble, then obviously you don't want it there. But I've got a feeling that given, and this is what people told me, that there's so much trouble back there anyway, that it could hardly be crazier. And again, hopefully people will be using it for regular park activities. So that's the idea. And the ANC 4C, which actually includes this strip, this Quincy Alley and the park, they actually did vote and did send a letter to Superintendent Washburn last fall supporting the idea. So I'm hoping that your ANC can do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Bonet, since this is, no, I'm sorry, I keep doing that. Since this is closest to your ANC, did you have any comments or questions or thoughts?
Yeah, thank you. And Steve, thanks for doing that overview and all of your work over the years, and in particular in this part. So as Steve mentioned, this borders 1A01, and actually the view you see on the screen right now, one of the buildings that you see here right off Quincy Alley is the new location of one of the So Others May Eat facility that houses 35 new families that moved here in the last year or so. And so I'm still developing relationships with some of the resident manager and program managers there. But almost every family does have young children there. And so they currently don't have any outdoor or green space that they can use. And so if we are able to make this a safer or more attractive public green space option, I think that would be really nice for many neighbors, but in particular, some of these newer neighbors that we've welcomed in the last year or so. I actually just came from Quincy Alley. So if you walk down by Lyman's Tavern, down Quincy Alley, and if you were to continue through this park area, there is a trail that then connects onto kind of where Piney Branch is. And the other side of Piney Branch is a lot more popular in terms of people picnicking or playing with their dogs and things like that. It's very open. And so I think some of the issue here is that because it's denser, it is easier for people to participate in some of these activities that we wouldn't necessarily want to see in the neighborhood. Steve, it was actually looking really good today. So maybe they knew you were going to present about it. I didn't see any. I saw one beer can, no condoms, no mattresses, very little broken glass today. And I think because it was a beautiful day, you had a few families sitting out and picnicking on the other side of the forest there.
Great.
So, yeah, I'm very much in favor. And if the 4C commissioner is with us, would love to hear her perspective. Otherwise, would love to hear from Ms. Washburn. Thank you.
Great. Ms. Washburn, thank you for joining us. What is the Park Service's feeling on this?
Oh, good evening. Well, thanks for having me. We are happy to put a picnic table there for sure. We did ask Steve when he presented us with this idea to check in with the ANCs related to this piece of property because we have over the past years put picnic tables in and then taken them out and then putting them back in and taking them out. There's usually people who are thinking like Steve is, which is let's use this for positive things and that will sort of decrease the negative uses, which is very true, does happen. And then there's others who see the picnic table as sort of an attractive nuisance where they get people hanging out on the picnic table, doing nefarious activities. And so I think as long as the ANCs are supportive of it of this as a trial basis, we'd be happy to place the picnic table.
Great. Well, one question for you before I move on to others. Is some of our parks have friends of groups that are established that then, kind of take on some of the responsibility of cleanup and maybe even raising money for additional uses. Is that something that the National Park Service does as well?
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, for this part of Rock Creek Park, which is the main body of Rock Creek Park or Rock Creek Park proper, there is the Rock Creek Conservancy, of which you won't be surprised that Steve Dryden was a founding member of. And the Rock Creek Conservancy would be the friends group with which communities could work and work with us with them. That would be the right one. But I also wanted to mention, as Steve mentioned earlier, he's got a Songbirds project going on there, which in a way functions quite a lot like a friends group does. He's done a lot of habitat restoration, many cleanups, and some environmental education and some recreation type activities. But Steve is very familiar with Rock Creek Conservancy, having co-founded it and being very involved with them even today. He's former board member and so forth.
Thank you. Commissioner Clark, I thought I saw your hand. Do you still have a question?
Yes, thank you very much. And thank you for presenting, Mr. Dryden. So I guess my question is, usually nuisances happen because there are fewer eyes on the street, right? So I noticed there was like an older street light on the building across the way, which probably is not very nickel light's not very bright, I would imagine. And the light is over the alley, right, over the street there. So, I mean, do we think, do most of the activities happen in the evening, do we know? And do you think some more lighting would be what might help make this area at least not attract people at night? I don't know, maybe the woods in general is what's doing it. And of course, we want to protect the habitat. But I wonder if we know the table could be used, as Ms. Washburn said, could be used for any number of of activities, but definitely nothing of good use probably at night. So I'm wondering if night is the biggest concern.
Well, that's a lot of questions, some of which are very still mysterious to me. I mean, I see the outcomes, the remnants, so to speak, of all this misbehavior, and I rarely see the people doing them. But they're not ghosts, they're not space beings who come in invisible in the middle of the night and do things. They are people who are in the neighborhood, and in fact, I can recognize some of it. And I think it goes on 24/7, as far as I can tell. Some of it is very episodic. Other things, there's one or two prostitutes who use it regularly, and I see them all the time taking men back into the woods there. That's daylight. And that's why, in particular, it's really, I think, important to get a handle on this situation, because that green space can be seen from all of those apartments along Spring Road that face it, and the Twin Oaks, all look into the park. And I've heard from people, they see things going on there in the daytime, So this is the sort of thing that honestly is beyond my purview, my charge, law enforcement. But I will say that there are lights there on the alley, and there, in fact, has been increased police patrols, MBTD police patrols over the past couple of months, because unfortunately, some of the newer apartment buildings that have come up on Quincy Street have been having troubles with some various law-breaking activities. So both the MPD and also a private security service hired by the owner of these apartment buildings has been patrolling the area. How much difference they've made, I don't know. But of course, the alley allows the police to patrol, to drive by. So they would be literally 2 feet from the picnic table as they drive by. So that makes it very convenient to keep their eyes on it. And of course, on the other side of the park, usually Shepherd Street cul-de-sac, that's where the park police sometimes dismount or get out of their cars and come in. They can come in that way. So you have sort of a pincer situation there, not that they coordinate, but nevertheless, all of that law enforcement is around. I don't know if more lighting would really help. I don't think lighting is really a problem. I think it's more that this area for decades has been seen as a place for misbehavior. And in fact, the police have a nickname for it. They call it the Quincy Playground. And it's not because children are playing there. And honestly, it would be nice if it was called the Quincy Playground because children were playing there. And that's what we're trying to do here.
Very well. Any thoughts about putting any kind of play equipment, given that we just learned that there's a new, family-based housing development right across from the alley?
Julia, you can speak to that.
So I won't say 100% no, but we do get requests for putting play equipment on parkland like every other day. And if we did that, if we put play areas on parkland, there wouldn't be any green space without a play area anymore. And so the issue is, that space actually kind of lends itself nicely to some play area. However, there's an issue of precedent setting. If I say yes to you, then I have to say yes to everyone else. And the other issue is if you were going to put a play area in, it would have to be up to code.
Yeah.
And the code is very strict in DC now on play areas. So it would be rather expensive. You would need to put in a rubberized surface. You would need to put in a large fence. There need to be certain number of feet away from the street and so forth and so on. So that would be a much more involved kind of endeavor.
No, I thank you for the clarification. You're pointing
Now,
out
Michael,
what I should have realized.
Michael,
Yes,
can I add something?
please.
Yeah,
Then I'll
and
go to Commissioner Bonell.
of course, I've been in conversations with the Park Service on this, and I understand their position on it, which makes sense. And I would just say that, honestly, from my standpoint as an environmental educator, I don't think we need more plastic in parks. And I would say, and with all honesty, that there's enough to do in that park, just using the green, using the woods, using the space, for kids. I mean, kids gravitate toward the woods and they like to just walk around and see stuff and grab stuff. I know people have been building forts in the woods. Park Service is not thrilled about that, but nevertheless, that is just an example, of kids having kid-type activities, which we all did when we were kids, and really should be a part of your growing up if you're near a park or a green space. So I think there's a lot, and frankly, I've also wanted to, and I have a grant from the District Department of the Environment to take out the kids from the SOME apartment for nature activities, and we're just waiting for the COVID thing to cool off a little bit before we do that. But I've brought other school groups over there. We've done nature hikes. We've done observations of birds. We've done other things. They've helped clean up a little bit, and certainly there's enough there to keep kids busy and frankly, in more purposeful activities.
Very good. Commissioner Bonell, you had your hand up.
I'm good. Steve addressed what I was going to cover, and then Commissioner Bass put a great point in the chat.
No problem.
Which was?
He stated that the grounds of the Soldiers' Home, the children usually like to just go in there and run around and be in that open space. So, and
yeah, I mean, you could play soccer on this space. You could just kick the ball, basically. Of course, dog walking. Elementary children's games of various types. I mean, the great thing about this space, I mean, it is kind of isolated and it is a little strange in that respect, but it's also very quiet and there aren't many cars that come on the alley. So honestly, it's a safe place for kids because it's not like if they wander off into the alley, these cars are zooming by. They just don't do that. They usually go, thank God, they just go around 5 miles an hour. So you've got those bollards there that are protecting against cars running off into the field, nevertheless. And so it's just a perfect place, for casual recreation.
very well. Well, I think we've kind of exhausted this, unless somebody, Commissioner Bass, I see you unmuted yourself. Did you have something you wanted to add?
Well, I mean, I guess I can't put everything in chat, but I think there's something to be said for unprogrammed space. It allows for the imagination to invent programming. Kids, just what I put in the chat, you wouldn't really think of a big open space as being terribly exciting, but it really seems to be exciting for kids that really don't have access to many open spaces where they can just run around and play tag or chase each other. I mean, or even fly a kite. Like, I don't think this really needs to be overly programmed. But that said, I will wrap it up by saying, as long as the Park Service is seeking input from the ANCs, and if ANC 4C supports this, I'm perfectly comfortable with us getting behind it as well.
Very good. I did see a hand go up. I think it's Commissioner Lovewade. Is that on the line? Can you go ahead? Oh, sorry, you're muted. Now I've unmuted you.
Okay. Yeah, the question I was asking was also about the playground equipment, and I got a good answer as to why not.
Yeah. So given everything we've heard, I don't see why we wouldn't, or I will make a motion that we would go ahead and do a letter of support following 4C's lead, since they actually are the ANC of jurisdiction, but that we would also support this, temporary adding of a park bench. I'm sorry, not a park bench, a picnic table to see how it goes. Anyone want to second that?
Second.
Oh, okay, we have a second. All those in favor, just say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, well, we'll make that recommendation, Mr. Dryden, to the ANC, and then we'll get you a letter. But we probably, Ms. Washburn should probably feel free to move ahead with this project at her timeline, and we'll get you a letter when we can.
Thanks very much, and thanks for having me here tonight. And many thanks to Steve Dryden for all of his amazing work he does on behalf of the park.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Yay. Sorry.
All right, good night.
Good night.
Okay,
Thanks
good
for
night.
joining us.
Take care.
All right.
Enjoy
I'm gonna-
the springtime. Bye.
Bye-bye. As we believe, our next. Hold on, R. Michael Cross. I'm bringing up Mr. Cross, who I know has Mr. Cross, are you going to be presenting the plans, or is there someone else that will be doing that?
Yeah, I think I'll present tonight.
Okay.
I've got the project designer, Amir, as well as project captain, Emily Bacher.
Gotcha. All right,
Can
Mr.
you
Cross, you
mute
should be able.
me? Can you mute me, please?
Oh, I will do. Mr. Cross, you should be able to share, and then Emily and Amir are both with us.
Very good. Is that sharing at this point?
Yes, I can see it. Thank you.
Okay. Appreciate you guys having us back. This is our third presentation to this committee. We've appreciated all the feedback thus far. For those who don't recall, this project is located at 616 Quebec Place Northwest. It is on the south side of the block between Warder and Park. And our original project was seeking relief exclusively for the 3-unit conversion under 320.2. The original project was not seeking any other relief, as it was conforming with parking, as well as rear addition projections, chimney regulations. And we did not propose to modify any or extend any of the architectural rooftop elements. Based on the feedback we received at the other meetings, our client has agreed to add the additional relief required to modify the architectural rooftop elements. in hope that we can provide a design that's more in keeping with the character of the neighborhood. So we have two options for you tonight. Hoping to get your feedback on what's working, what's not working with those, so that we can better align our application with your thoughts. Both of the options we're presenting tonight do show the modification of that front porch roof element. That was something that came up in previous conversations pretty early on, and was kind of held back because we weren't seeking relief for the architectural rooftop element, but is shown in both of these options, as that would require this relief, and seeking relief, we could make that change. Additionally, both options presented here tonight have reduced the penthouse that was shown previously. It is now just a roof hatch. And so we've added some additional views from farther down the street. But I think the big note here is you won't be seeing much of that because we've actually have reduced it, almost eliminated it in full. So we have two options as seen here on the screen. Option one on the left is intended to maintain a lot of the features that exist there today, but extending them up to enclose the additional story. The option two, seen on the right, is alluding to a bookend condition that exists at the other end of this block at 3645 Warder Street, where the we have a similar row of houses, but the end unit has a mansard that actually wraps the corner. And we can go through these together or individually based on your thoughts. Anybody have any preference of how to go through them? So I'm going to go through them one by one because I just think it might be a little overwhelming to kind of have them in parallel, but I'll do so very quickly. So option number one, again, this option is intended to take much of the existing character of the row house as it exists today and essentially extrude that up. And how that is effectively done is we are keeping the slope of that existing mansard roof, but extending it up so that it can enclose an entire third story addition. In a similar way, we would be taking the capstones and either relocating or reproducing them up at a higher level, again, one level above where they are today. The effect is to maintain a similar massing overall while enclosing the proposed third story addition. So with that, I'll flip over to the option number two and then hopefully get some more feedback. As discussed before, option two has a mansard roof that is on the front, again, matching the existing slope of the existing mansard roof. It is being proposed to be extended up in order to accommodate the third story. We've then wrapped it around the corner and down the detached side of the structure. And on this particular project, we've also wrapped it around the rear because many of the participants in the first ZPP for this project were occupants of the houses across the alley. So we've kind of extended that same effect so it's visible basically from all detached sides. Here you see that rear condition, very similar to the front. Really making the rear of the property as as developed as the front of the property. Again, this is that view that was discussed in the last committee meeting, where the penthouse was going to be most visible. Here you can see that you can see the roof deck railings from this view. This is at Quebec in Park. But the penthouse is pulled down to a point where you can't see it. Again, we didn't discuss it much, but the front porch roof is intended to be restored to a similar condition to what it was historically. I think, as we've discussed with this committee before, unfortunately, the original height of that rail doesn't meet code. And so the proportions will be slightly different than the original massing in order to meet code. But otherwise, we're intending to try to match that up and can work with you on that. And another part to this option is we've looked to take a lot of the little architectural dental work, in this case, larger than that, and extend it around the corner in a similar way as it exists on the front. So with that, I might open it up to the committee. Again, really appreciate all the time and feedback that we've received to date, and hope to gain a better understanding from you what of a solution that you may be most likely to support, so that we can modify our application based on that feedback.
Thank you very much. This is Commissioner Base's SMD, so I would ask, do you have any questions before we maybe turn to the community, or where do you want to go?
Just one, and that is, I see on page 11, you list the building height measuring point of 4 feet, 10 inches. And I know for a fact that it's 5 feet, 3 inches. So how did you lose 5 inches?
So we have a survey that shows the building height measuring point, which I think is actually the grade condition at that point. And the reference that you're making, I believe, is the first floor. The building height measuring point that the surveyor has identified for us is, in terms of its absolute position above sea level, 213 feet, 0.8. And the finished first floor is 218.6, which puts it just under 5 feet between building height measuring point and first floor. And again, both of those are established by a licensed surveyor in the District of Columbia.
And I'm happy to get an additional license survey to prove that this is wrong, because it is wrong. And I asked to be on site when this was done so that I could be confident that measurements were being accurate, and that you weren't just getting the answer you were paying for, but that you were getting the correct answer.
We'd be glad to entertain any additional surveys that you provide. But again, this was provided by a licensed surveyor that is providing the answers, that is providing what he found in the field, not the answers we need.
And I appreciate what you're saying. I hope you can appreciate that when I measure from the existing grade to the height of the finished first floor, which is how that's worded in the zoning regulations, the measurement is 5 feet, 3 inches. And therefore, I am finding it difficult that 5 inches just evaporated.
Sure. We can work with you and try to schedule a time for the surveyor to meet you back out there. We could seek an alternate party or something. But at this point, we feel that has been established based on the survey.
And we're going to have to agree to disagree. And I will make this a living hell, I assure you.
I'm going to move on. Commissioner Clark.
Sure. And I will say that I really appreciated the option B, second option, having the mansard roof on the side. I don't know if I agree with it on the back of the building. I imagine maybe you're going to put in balconies in the back. It looks kind of strange on the backside, but I do appreciate making the building look like it's finished on the side as opposed to a lot of buildings where they're just kind of waiting for a house to go next to it. So I do like the mansard roof on the side. Thank you.
Council member, I've just promoted you. Committee member Nadir.
To be a council member if you would like me to.
Yeah, I'm sure you would enjoy that.
Let me know. I do want to say the design has gotten progressively so much better since the first presentation. It does look a lot better, especially on the side, especially on the back. I would really like to see, Councilmember BC's concerns just handled, be on site. I don't know the answer. I'm not saying I do know the answer, but please, work with him so you guys can find what is the true answer, because this has been happening for a little while and I would really like this sorted out to what the truth is. I'm not trying to say it's one way or the other because I don't live in Parkview. I'm in Columbia Heights. So just please sort it out, because there's been 2 meetings now that you guys have discussed this and it's just time to find the correct thing, please.
Thank you. I see a hand, well, maybe not. Mr. Hughes, I wasn't sure if you, I'm going to allow you to talk. I believe you are also a party. Did you have any particular questions or thoughts on the 2 suggestions?
Yeah, I think Mr. Cross did a bit of a tap dance on the height. I agree with Kent. I think it's pretty clear that they don't have the by right authority to bump up another story. And I think we'll be able to prove our case. And if we need to file a lawsuit, I'm ready to go. But if Mr. Cross really wants to get this done and work amicably with the community, don't bump it up. As I said before, there have been many properties done in this neighborhood where they have not done this horrendous bump up. And everyone was very happy. And your client will still make a profit. He's not going to make as high of a profit, but he'll still make a profit. And he's got many, many other properties where he can make that even higher profit because he's an investor and he does this all over the place. So Mr. Cross, come back when you're really ready to deal. Until then, we'll just keep meeting you blow for blow here. Thank you.
Dottie, your hand was still up and I'm not sure if that was on purpose or not. I'm going to unmute you just to double check.
I'm very interested in this project too, and I think we need to come to some kind of understanding. A lot of time is being spent at each of our meetings on this, and I really like to see an accurate measurement made, a second one, so that we can be sure, and we can add zoning to step in, I do believe. Thank you.
Okay, no problem, and I will re-meet you. Thank you. All right, I believe that is everyone. So I will at least echo that if the building measuring point does allow for an additional story, I do think the mansard is a more attractive approach. So that's just my 2 cents. But obviously there is this, I will say I was on site with Commissioner Bass doing the measurements, and it does appear that we're over the 5 feet. So, but that I'm not a surveyor. I have no way to do that. I was interested to hear that they somehow do it based on height above sea level. So obviously their equipment is able to help them make that measurement. I may have to educate myself a little more on how they do that. Mr. Cross, did you have any other questions of the committee in terms of the design? I mean, I think the front porch, the treatment on the front porch is good. If you do end up being able to add that back, I know that's an element that has been there in the past.
Yeah, I appreciate all the feedback. I apologize that we still seem to be stuck on kind of this fundamental element. Again, I in no way intend to be tap dancing around anything. We hired a licensed professional and have them providing the answer. We did not do this measurement. So we can continue to work with your committee and the larger ANC to provide additional resources that try to get to the truth. Again, if that truth is an additional story, we hope to provide a design that is in keeping with the feedback. Obviously, if it doesn't allow for an additional story, all of this discussion is moot. But we would appreciate your feedback nonetheless.
Yes, thank you. Well, and that, I'm just trying to provide feedback both ways in case, depending on how this goes. I do think Commissioner Bass, though, might also have a comment on the two designs. Commissioner?
Yeah, thanks, Michael. I understand a lot of people seem to be attracted to the wraparound mansard, but it's wrong for this house. This is not a corner property. It's on an alley. The appropriate, historically accurate ending for the houses in these rows are the flat as existing. I'm hesitant to go too far into the weeds on design for a story that I believe in my fiber is illegal without additional relief. But that said, if this is to come to fruition, the ends of these rows are supposed to be flat, not have mansards. And I'm really deeply not in favor of removing the historically accurate dormers and replacing them with dormers on steroids. This house is supposed to be a mirror image of the house. And let me pull up the zoning map.
Yeah, actually, do you want to share that screen? Because I can have Commissioner. And Michael, if you would just stop sharing, maybe we can see what he's going to refer to. Thank you.
Well, this is supposed to be a mirror image of the house at 624 Quebec. These are composed rows, and that has been my concern from the very beginning. Is these aren't cookie cutter rows with every house is the same. These are well thought out composed rows that are symmetrical in design. And anything that you're doing to this is upsetting a very well-balanced, well thought out composition of 5 houses. And so anything you do needs to be sensitive to the houses that it's attached to. That's just a given. That's why, in part, and I guess in a way I'll say thank you to Michael that this inappropriate design really spurred me on to get a historic district nominated so that we do not have to have these conversations in the future, so that we have design experts that come free of charge to balance these competing needs. We have supported third-story additions in many other parts of the commission, including my single member district, where all the houses were exactly the same, because we can envision that over time, all of those other houses are going to be exactly the same if we can help guide how those additions occur. That's not possible on this row. And
Did Commissioner Bass disconnect or what happened?
Oh, I thought he was about to share. Sorry,
It happened.
Oh, he just muted. That's why I was wondering.
Well, I need to jump off at this crucial moment, sadly. But I wish you all the best.
Thank you. Commissioner Bass tells me he is coming back, so we'll give him a moment.
was a very dramatic moment. I was wondering what's going to happen next.
We'll see.
I want to make a comment after, but I want to
Just-
not
just
do
hold
it
on.
while he's gone, you know.
Just hold on for me.
Sorry about that. Sometimes I try to minimize the screen and I shut a window. It's the curse of Zoom. But to wrap it up, what I'm not seeing is I'm not seeing an understanding to that activity. I have seen improvement, and I'm going to give you that. But I'm not seeing a real desire to attempt to understand the original architectural composition of the street, and that remains deeply concerning to me.
Okay. And Member Nadir, you had a comment?
Oh, I just want to mention, I very much respect what Commissioner Bass has been discussing in his neighborhood of Parkview. I think historic can be important, but I've noticed that so much of DC has been labeled historic. If you look at the map, for one reason or another, we live in a historic city. It's the capital city of the United States. But I think, you know, looking at all this, you know, so much of this area was built not that long ago, frankly. And, you know, although I'm not an expert necessarily in history, I can see why in this way, not adding the monstrosity that was their first design can be okay, especially given how close Parkview is to a metro, how much housing prices have risen just in the past year. They've risen 20%. Rent is rising. I just don't see cutting off a story because it doesn't match some design in 1905 that they weren't necessarily planning it even lasting this long. And that's me living in one of those types of houses just a little bit to the southwest. But Commissioner Bass is also very well regarded in his neighborhood and has been commissioner for a long time for a reason. So I mean, I still respect him. I just disagree with him.
Okay, I think we've probably given as much feedback as we can tonight. You know, at this stage, I think we're still in a talking mode, and we've got some time. So I'll leave it that you know, Mr. Cross, you've gotten some feedback from the community tonight, and you know, we're happy to look at anything new that you want to send our way. It does sound like you should get some information to Commissioner Bass about the surveyor, so maybe they can have a conversation and better understand the process that's used. Because as I said, I've seen the measuring tape up against the wall, and you know, I would agree that it seemed like it was more than the 5 feet. So would love to learn more.
Very good. Appreciate it. I'll stay in touch, and we appreciate the feedback as always.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll let you leave. And then, Mr. Hughes, you're welcome to stay. We're just going to speak very quickly about Tublin Elementary School. You may or may not have an opinion. I'm going to share my screen. So I was contacted. Can you all see a photograph of Tublin Elementary?
Yes.
Okay, so I was contacted by a DGS contractor who did the elevator work and some HVAC work for the elementary school. This is at between Irving and Kenyon, 11th and 13th, Tublin Elementary. And because of the way they ended up having to place some of the HVAC equipment on the roof, they needed to place it over top of some additional supports that were there that could handle the weight. These enclosures, I don't know if you're able to see where I'm kind of pointing, it pushed these enclosures in some cases a little closer to the roof line than was originally intended, and that triggered a need for a future BZA case because they're not as far from that end as they would necessarily want them to be. Personally, I walk past the site twice a day, every day, and you barely notice that they're there. And I'm just pointing out to everyone that, you know, these things are up there. Maybe when you're walking by, you'll see them as well. I can't imagine that this BZA case is going to be complicated or that we need to make it complicated, that we would support any relief that's necessary for those enclosures to remain up there or to install the last panel. There may be a panel or two that need to be added that they've held off on because of this case. But I'm just curious if there are any questions or thoughts or issues that you can see about these enclosures.
As someone that lives the block up from this on 13th Street, do it. Do it quickly, do it fast, do it right now.
Yeah, it's actually been going on since I think November of last year when they first contacted me about it. Commissioner Clark, did you have a question?
Yes, I will say I haven't noticed it, and I walk by almost as frequently as you do, Commissioner Ray. And I don't know, I mean, is there a way, I've always seen them just gray, the natural color, but if they're trying to, I mean, is it a safety issue? Is that why they want it, or a site issue? Because if it's a site issue, maybe they could camouflage it in some way. But I've honestly not noticed it when I walk by.
Yeah, I'm not sure what entirely their intent is. I could ask DGS if they could give me a background on why they're certainly more attractive than looking at their green HVAC heavy air handling units that are up there. So they're, I think, more attractive than that. I don't know if they also do some weather, support for weather or snow or that kind of thing too.
Well, maybe we could accent it too. Like maybe it could be painted in some way with a design. I don't know. I love all the designs on the field. I wish they could fix those designs, but I mean, maybe they could make this actually a highlight if it needed to be there instead of an eyesore, if that was a concern.
Well, Commissioner Clark, did the designs on Tubman Field still exalt Fenty for building them, or have those been replaced?
That was all moved. That was all
moved. I'll just say, I don't know why we care.
I don't either. It is a case.
I don't know why they're asking. I mean, I appreciate that they're asking for our opinion if that's the process, but it seems like they've been doing the work, and if they needed any kind of feedback, it should have happened before they started. But I will echo, get it done.
Yeah, get it done. I mean, I certainly don't want to cost any more money, keeping in mind that this, I'm sure, has an impact on DGS funding or at least the contractor's funding, who knows. And as I said, I think what happened was they originally intended them to be positioned differently, but that when they got up there and saw where the equipment could be placed, where the support, the support for its weight could be, that they ended up having to move them slightly.
Well, I will say, if it were an older building, maybe it would be more jarring, and maybe people would it would draw their attention more. That this is kind of a low-rise, mid-century kind of building that's very square and cubish to begin with. Another square cube on top seems like it's always been there. So it just seems like it's being overly thought.
And the other option is to remove the air conditioning altogether. I mean, that would
no, that's not an option.
I had schools when I went to school that didn't have air conditioning. Keep these kids cool. I don't care, even if it's on a 100-year-old building. Keep them cool. I don't care. Like, it was not a conducive learning environment. Like, please just keep the kids cool.
Yeah.
Much agreed. Now this like so many cases, I know about this in advance because I keep an eye on the docket pretty closely. So this won't actually get referred to the neighbors for probably another month or more. But they will, people within 200 feet of the school will receive a letter that will tell them about this case. We may hear from somebody in the neighborhood, but I just want to make sure people are aware of it.
And to not get yelled at, should we wait till the notice goes out?
Oh yeah, we're gonna have, I'm not gonna vote it through from the ANC for some time, but I wanted people to know about it.
Agreed. I remember we had some issues with that with a recent meeting, so yeah.
Commissioner Loveway, did you have a question or a thought?
Yeah, that's kind of in my single member district. I didn't notice it up there. And with all that stuff that's going on in the front yard, it distracts you from looking up anyhow.
Yeah, all the nice.
You have all those gardens, and then you have these sheds, and then you have all of this other stuff that they don't ask us anything about. Once we put that fencing around there, it just went crazy.
Well, I will make sure that you see the plans. I only, so far we've only seen them because I went into the docket and saw them. So we haven't been referred this case yet, but it will come up in the next couple of months.
You know,
Okay.
the one thing I would say is, since we've got some time, if we could draft whatever we need to draft and have it ready to go so that we can be as efficient as possible. And I don't think that that's an issue with anyone that I've heard from tonight. I think we all agreed that if we could file something yesterday, we probably would. But I just want to make sure that whatever our process is, that it's conducive to the timeline, but doesn't add any time to it.
Yeah, I would hope that whatever we come up with here at the committee, that we will just pass on a consent agenda at the ANC. And I didn't intend to bring DGS in to talk about this either, because again, I think it's pretty straightforward. This doesn't require a lot of thought. Very well.
Agreed.
Just wanted to make sure to share what I knew with other people, so I'm not, holding on to it myself. And with that, unless there's any other business, I will, I guess, ask for a second or a first.
I just wanted to make a quick announcement.
Sure.
I was sworn in today for, I think, the 6th time in 6 years for Hire Vehicle Advisory Council.
Congratulations.
Every time they do something to that law, I have to be re-sworn in because they've changed us from commissioners to advisors to councilmen, and then they changed it from a taxi commission to the Department of Transportation, and then they moved us to our own individual agency, Department of Hire Vehicle. So for one appointment that I get paid about as much as I get paid for the ANC, I've been sworn in 6 times.
And do you meet with Director Doe?
No, Joe, David is a long old friend of mine. In fact, I taught him politics.
Yes, I have met him several times. He's a former Parkview
Right.
resident,
Yeah,
not
he
any
cut
longer. But
He cut his teeth at my knee.
Can I get an explanation of what that position is, please? I'm not familiar.
Huh?
Can I get an explanation of what that position is, ma'am? I'm not familiar.
Okay, well, what we do is we're the community that advises that sets regulations for taxis, and it sets fines and that type of thing. Just, pretty much what any commission or council does. And
now it involves.
we serve in an advisory capacity now as the commission. We actually voted on everything, but now that it's a government agency, it does its own regs without our authorization. And that's one of the things that Shay put in place.
Yeah, and it includes the Uber and Lyft regulations as well that you advise on.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Great.
Okay, I just wanted to share with you that I'm still being sworn in every month, every year, every time I turn around. And I just got a new financial disclosure. Did y'all get that stuff too? I thought we just did all that stuff.
Well, you hold a lot more positions than we do.
I think that's what it is. It might be.
Yeah, probably.
Okay, I'm gonna call them because I'm not doing it again.
Gotcha.
I just did
Well,
it.
Dottie, I got it again too, and I just assumed it was a duplicate, and I just have to figure it out. So I'm heartened to hear that you got one as well, that we're at least in good company. But
I got one that said at first that they hadn't received my statement. And I know I had worked with Mr. Williams personally to get it done. And so I sent them what he sent me in my confirmation. And next thing I heard was this thing again.
Well, if you're tired of it next time, I'm happy to do it for you. In case you're,
Okay.
unless you have to be a commissioner. I'm not a commissioner, so.
Okay, well, thank you.
Well, very well. With that, I'll close our meeting tonight and thank you all for joining and your participation. Have a good evening.
Yeah,
Good
thank you.
evening.
Too. Mr. Bees,
Good
if
night.
you wanted to get coffee sometime, I would like to chat with you just about your
Yeah.
experience and being here. So
Okay.
Did you catch that, Commissioner Bass?
was that for me or for
Yeah,
Dottie?
yeah, Commissioner Bass, I'd love to get coffee with you sometime and just kind of hear what's going on. I mean, I feel like we disagree a lot. I just want to understand. You've been here longer than me. I just want to just chat with you and see and understand and learn from you.
Oh, be careful. Like asking to meet me for coffee, that's like catnip.
Well, I love coffee, so I mean,
That's
it's
my
cat-
point.
we're both catniping the same thing. So I mean, I would love to. I don't know if you doubles is I think right between both of us. if I
Yeah,
remember.
yeah.
So
Yeah, we'll coordinate. We'll find a time to make it work.
perfect. I would love that. I mean, I'm also a coffee fan. Love to get it with anybody. So really, just want to hear from you.
Perfect. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to it now.
Great, me too. I will. Michael, if you could please send me his email.
Yeah,
I'm happy to.
I'll make the connection.
Perfect.
Thanks,
All right,
Michael.
Thank you so much. all of
Thank
you.
you. Good night,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Good night.